Are you tired of your kids fighting? I'm going to talk about a simple approach that will drive your kids nuts, teach them how to problem solve, and will probably stop them from fighting. Let's talk about it. So if you have more than one kid, you probably have kids fighting at your house, because I have 3, and so I have a lot of fighting at my house. And it really drives me up the wall because I have a very low threshold for noise. That's my problem. And so when my kids are like, I cannot stand it. And so I have started doing a very weird approach that I have now started talking about in my therapy practice, and it's working for a lot of families. And so let's talk about what that is. The key to help kids stop fighting is to teach them how to problem solve. And they're bickering because they actually don't know how to problem solve. And if you encourage them to just come and tell on each other and you fix it, then you're not teaching them how to problem solve. If you leave them to figure it out themselves, depending on your kids, they actually might kill each other. And so that's not helpful. So you fixing it, not helpful. Them fixing it, scary and not helpful. So what are you supposed to do? You're like, okay, Natasha, you don't want them to tattletale, fine, but you don't want them to fix it themselves. And so I do this thing. Now, granted, I don't do it always because I don't have enough energy for this all the time. But when they're fighting, I will say, come here, children. And then they know what's going to happen because I've done this a lot. I'll have them stand in front of me. So let's say there's two of them, because I got 3. So normally it's 2 of them fighting. And I'll say, come here. And they'll both come up to me. And then I'll be like, shh, shh, don't let either one of them talk. And I'm like, okay, you both are going to get your time to talk. So first, you go. And as your kids get used to this weird, wacky approach, the other one will be quiet because they realize that they're going to get their time to speak. And if they, when you first start this, you can say, you're going to get your time to speak. Let me just hear both sides. So then you're like, so then this is what I do with my kids. Go. So then let's just say it's my son and daughter. I actually just did this yesterday. So I do it all the time. So then my son will be like, well, I was sitting there playing with my toy and she came up to me and she said, hey, where did you get that? And I said, I got it at McDonald's and I don't want you to touch it. And she said, oh, can I just see it for a minute? And I said, no. And then she just grabbed it out of my hands when I was still playing with it. And so then I will listen and then I'll say, okay, thank you for sharing your side. And then I'll say, go to my daughter. And then she will say, I saw that he got a new toy and I didn't know where he got it. And it looked really cool. And I wanted to play with it. And he wouldn't let me. And he pushed me out of the way. And so I just grabbed it from him. So now I got both sides of the story. And most of the time, neither side is 100% perfect, right? I mean, there's a little bit of something that's wrong in both stories. And most of the time that will happen with your kids, sometimes not. But this is where the teaching of the problem solving is. And so you don't want to pick sides when you're trying to teach problem solving. Because a lot of times, if you're one of those parents who fixes it for your kids, you'll just assume which kid is making the mistake. Because I know I am totally guilty of this. And I know a lot of the parents I work with in my practice are totally guilty of that. You know who is the pot stirrer, right? You know who the antagonizer is in your house. You know 90% of the time which kid is causing the problems at your house, right? Also, we expect more from the older kids. And so if they do something that is not okay, we are a lot harsher on them than if it was like the little brother. And that builds up resentment with our kids because, one, sometimes we don't see things and it's not the kid that we think. And secondly, they start to resent their siblings because they're like, I'm always in trouble because they expect more from me, or because they always believe you. And then you start making up lies and saying, I'm hitting you when I'm not even hitting you. So you don't want to pick sides. That helps extinguish some of that resentment that your kids can have. So put them together and then you problem solve for them. So let's use this scenario. So I might say to my son, you're right, she should not have pushed you. Pushing you is not okay. But she was also curious about that toy. What could you have done? If you don't share your toy, Is she going to share her toys? No. Do you want her to ever share her toys? Because tomorrow I'm going to take her out and she might get something. And if you're not going to share your stuff, then I'm going to tell her that she doesn't have to share her stuff. Well, okay. Yeah, maybe I should share. Okay, I'm making this example sound beautiful because some kids aren't going to say that. And he might be like, no, I don't care. I don't want to see any of her stuff. That's fine. You're just talking out loud. And then to the daughter, I understand that it was a new toy and you were interested in seeing it and you haven't seen it and you did use your words and that was nice. But is it okay for you to just take something if someone says no? No. If you have something new and I just go up and I just grab it out of your hands, is that okay? No. Would you like that if your brother just grabs something out of your hands? No. Okay, then we don't grab. Then I go back to him and I'd say, is it okay to push someone when they're annoying you? No. Do you want someone to push you? No. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, good talk. Go. And that's it. I don't discipline it. I don't punish. I don't have them do anything with each other. I just say, this is what you could have done differently. This is what you could have done differently. And depending on the situation, I might wrap it up with, will you allow your sister to look at it for a minute? But I really try not to do that. I just try to leave it because I'm not there to fix it. I'm there to highlight the behaviors that were not okay. And so in a simplistic way, all you're doing is you're calling your kids over and you're walking them through problem solving, which is pretty cool because eventually they will start doing it themselves. And I've heard my kids problem solve themselves. I have heard kids fighting in the background, and I have heard my son say, okay, I will let you play with this, but you have to let me play with that. I've heard them negotiate. Or I've heard my little daughter say, hey, you didn't have to hit me. You could have used your words. I've heard them have these conversations, and it is awesome because they are starting to learn how to fix their own problems. And not only will that help them here, and will totally help my sanity, it will help them with their peers. It will help them with their bosses in life. It will help them in all capacities. So if you have the energy and if you have the time, and I know I don't all the time at all, call your kids over and do a little court situation. Have one say their piece, the other say their piece. This is what you could have done differently. This is what you could have done differently. Now go. And leave it at that. You don't have to have everything consequenced and disciplined. Things are to be taught. These are learning opportunities. Make it a learning opportunity, not a discipline thing. Now, sometimes they just warrant discipline, but it's nice when we can learn how to teach. And then our kids are so much better in the long run. I hope you have a wonderful week. If you don't want to miss any of these episodes, hit subscribe. They're coming out once a week. And if you have a comment or a question about this video or any of my videos, go ahead and leave a comment below. I'd love to hear it. If you're pulling your hair out in frustration because your kids won't listen, you can check out my mini parenting e-course. It's on demand. You just buy it and you can take it whenever. It's a bunch of videos as well for $20. I will leave a link below. And until next time, I hope you find the sparkle in every day. Take care. Bye-bye.